Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sibyl podcast. This is your host, Mo, and today, I'm so excited to really share the story. I'm joined by someone I first met on the pickleball court, where all the best stories start, right?
Yes.
And he is many things: an entrepreneur, a new dad, and the heart behind real estate and relationships, and also uh, a husband and an adoptee. He's someone who knows how to see the value in people and properties alike, and he helps bring both to their highest and best use. And today, he's just doing it to talk business, but identity, belonging, fatherhood, and the beautiful mess of it all. So let's get right into it.
Cool.
Okay, let's rewind. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, especially being adopted, and how that shaped your worldview.
Oh yeah. So I grew up in Chandler, Arizona. So I, went to church a lot of church. I grew up with both my mom and dad in the house. My dad is what I call a simple man in the sense that he doesn't speak a lot, but when he does speak, it's very profound. And then my mom is a very fast mover. So I got like I would say, an in between of them. So yeah, grew up playing a lot of sports, a lot of student government, just constant activities. Like I love being around people. So um, yeah, that's my upbringing in a nutshell. And then moved from Arizona to Colorado for undergrad, and that was my first venture out. Being in Denver, I thought I was gonna like snow a lot more than I did, and not. And then yeah, that's the short of it.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah.
For those that don't know, can you tell us a little bit about your like your ethnicity and then your adoptive parents as well? That of your
Yeah.
adoptive parents. Yeah.
Yep. So I am and got through ancestry. I am a majority Black, so I would probably be an eighth white somewhere in there, European. And then I'm adopted by Douglas and Cynthia White, and I was adopted at 6 months old. So they're all I know, and they're awesome. I'm very grateful for that story, which I'm sure we'll dive into a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like. Um, which was a whole, we can dive into more. Met
Yeah.
my biological brothers this past year as well at turning 34. So didn't even know about them. Didn't really know about my biological parents too much. Didn't
Yeah.
wasn't super inquisitive about it, but my parents did a really good job, especially my mother, of just kind of striking home that I was chosen. So she's like, where everybody else has to get what they get, you were chosen. We saw you and knew that you were ours from the very beginning. So I
Wow.
think that definitely, developed the way that I am with relationships now. Definitely try to help people feel the same warmth of
Yeah.
being chosen as a friend and a life partner, a pickleball partner, etc. Just kind of creating warmth as much as I can.
That is beautiful.
Mhm.
And yeah, your adoptive parents, are they white or what racial group do they belong to?
Nope. Yeah, they're both Black.
Oh, both black. Okay.
They're both from actually from North Carolina.
Okay.
They met in Alamogordo, New Mexico. They were both in the Air Force, and they met there. They actually became pastors in Chicago. They pastored a small church there, and then I think that um, they had decided to adopt after my mom had a miscarriage, and so
Mm.
that's where I came in the mix. And then we moved to Arizona, where I grew up right after that.
Yeah.
So
And do you have siblings?
yeah, I have a little sister
Mm.
that's also adopted. She's 11 years younger than me. We're not biological, but um, it's very funny because everybody says our family fits so well together, and
Wow.
it's so yeah, it'd be so weird to think about, like, not
Yeah.
having them in my life. So
Yeah. Wow. God bless them, the whites.
yes, yes,
Um,
definitely.
how old were you when you knew you were adopted?
I remember having the conversation in kindergarten for sure. I think my mom started bringing that in a little bit early. I think she talked about the fact that, like, in elementary school, kids can be brutal. So she was like worried that if people say, "Oh, like, oh, you're adopted" or whatever, as a joke, that I would find offense with that. But when people make those jokes, I'd be like, oh, I am adopted. Like, like I would embrace it. So, again, I think my mom did a really, really good job of just kind of being like, imparting into me that I was so special,
Yeah.
by this process. And just like adopted just means loved in a different way. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
of course, love is chosen love.
Hmm. So, as you know, we have a child through adoption,
Oh, yeah.
and I have listened to so many conversations. I've also had a couple of adoptees on the podcast, and one of the things I've learned over the past is as much as you can, especially if you have a trans adoptee, being that the child is not from the culture that you're from, in
Yeah.
trying to do things to make sure that that part of their life, there's cultural connection. So that way they don't feel very left out. So one of the person who actually chaired that conversation that really blew that out for me was Crystal Pellicure. She was from Madagascar, but she was adopted by French parents, and they lived in a rural part of France where they had almost no black people. And now she's traveling around the world. Like she's lived in Portugal, she lives in the UK, trying to like find just her reclaim her identity as a black person. And so I'm just curious to know, like, for you, and this is also me just also learning from your process, and also for parents like me as well. In what ways can we make sure that we are fulfilling those cultural needs or even belonging for our children that are from adoption?
Yeah, I think for me, because I grew up in with a black family, that was probably helpful to kind of see that side of things.
Yeah,
Arizona is also super mixed. I think it's probably the most mixed of the places I've lived.
yeah,
Obviously, in Oklahoma, we see a little bit more disparity, I'd say,
yeah,
where like people, like us living in Edmond is a dot, a sprinkle. But in Arizona, it's like you have whole communities where you'll see, people of African descent, you'll see people Latin descent, you'll see people Caucasian. It's just so mixed in the communities.
yeah,
So I think that I actually grew up with like a second family that was Mexican, and I had, Indian friends that I would go to school with, and we would just all mix in high school. And so I really want to provide that opportunity for my children to be able to see as well, because it's so funny for again, us living in Oklahoma, people are so proud to like live here, stay here,
yeah,
never go anywhere else, and never experience the greatness of the world. And I think my parents taught me the opposite of that. I think in every culture there's a little bit that you can take from and kind of see the value in every culture. So
mm,
while I was raised with, parents from the South, essentially, that taught me Southern values of sorts, and they were military, so they were very, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I think they also did a really good job of imparting into me, I love to travel now. I love to be able to not just go to the luxury, side of the resorts and stuff, but to be able to go into communities and see what people are really, what they're really dealing with. So.
yeah. Thanks for sharing that. It's so beautiful. Um, Another thing we explored during that podcast episode, and I think is also very important, and I'd like to explore this with you. We talked about the layers of adoption grief and how it's not just about something you process once as a child, but something that shows up again and again, especially in childhood.
Yeah.
And she described this delayed grief where becoming a parent herself unexpectedly brought back her own sense of loss. The questions of what ifs, the ache for people she didn't grow up knowing. And yes, she's also found deeper understanding of her adoptive parents' love in the process. It was a very complex episode, but I really thank her so much for sharing just all of that. So I'm curious to know, you became a dad recently, right? And as someone who was adopted as a child, and now decades later, you've become a dad yourself. Would you say fatherhood has stirred up anything unexpected for you in your own adoption story?
Yeah, definitely. I think as we, I would say like to peel back that layer for a few years now, there was some curiosity, I'd say, but there wasn't, I think you balance that with, knowing my parents are very good parents. So I'm like, well, is this going to hurt them if I do inquire and kind of find out more about my biological parents and or family? So I would say that I was most curious about the health side of things. Especially having a biological child and not
Yeah.
knowing what exactly when we're going to all these appointments with my wife and they're asking about the medical history. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I have no idea. She can answer those questions and I was not able to. So
Mm.
I think that story, could call it grief, could call it, inquisitiveness. My mom always did say to me, if and when you're ready to receive the information about your biological parents, then I'll give it to you. But that is different in theory than it is in
Then
practice.
actually, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think,
Mm.
as over the last few years, I've gotten married, I've graduated from a master's program, I moved, state to state. My wife and I have a child. So when in that particular time period, when my mom is getting to brag about, mom and dad, but getting to brag about this child of theirs, when can I be like, oh, by the way, I want to also find out about my biological
Yeah,
parents.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, yeah, the way that it worked out, fortunately, through ancestry, my oldest biological brother reaching out to me, and through Instagram and
Wow.
just kind of like, went in the right timing for sure as well, because I was like open to it, but shocked by it, but also didn't have to go back to my parents to be like, hey,
Give
can I
me
have
answers. Yeah,
information?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think processing through some of that is still, I would think when I first found out about it, I was like, whoa, this is real. I don't think I never asked. So I didn't know that I had, biological siblings. And then, I think the biggest difficulty for me in the, reaching out about the bio parents as well was what position they're in. I don't know if they're healthy, if they're financially okay, if it would become, like an obligatory thing for me to be like, oh, I need to help
Yeah,
them in the
yeah,
position that I'm in, or do I, how do I work through those feelings? And so I think that's still something that will be navigated in the future because I haven't met the biological parents, but the brothers and I have formed a relationship. We talk often.
wow. And you never knew they existed
Never.
before.
Yeah, never. Mhm.
Do you have an idea how many? And it's same dad, same mom, would you know?
No, we have my biological brothers on the mom's side,
Okay.
and then the father. I think they said there's several
Wow.
of us. So
Wow.
I'm the youngest of the brothers from my biological mother's side. So they knew about me, and that was a cool story, in itself. Because again, and they didn't know. Um, yeah, I have to take you back to that, but they didn't know like my name because my name had changed. So they kind of gave me chills a little bit. But my oldest brother, when he told me about it, he was like, "I mean, man, we've been looking for you for forever. We just didn't know how to find you." And so,
Wow.
and on my side, he was like, did you look for us?" And I was like, "I didn't even know about you." So
Wow. Wow.
really cool to
Wow.
just kind of navigate still to this day. Like, and then we went um,
Puerto
we
Rico?
all went
Yeah,
to Puerto
yeah.
Rico
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
for my 34th birthday. That was the first time we met together, and so I don't know if a friend of mine came with, but just kind of little things like first we spoke, via text for a while, all three of us, but then seeing different idiosyncrasies amongst each other, like
Well, like looking at the mirror, right? Like some of the
yeah,
things you did,
exactly,
because you guys look so much
yeah,
alike, by the way.
yeah, it was really weird. It
Wow.
was just
How
kind
did
of
that
like,
make you feel? Probably connected deeply with
oh
you as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that was, my wife is definitely very protective and being like, make sure, I mean, she's like, you're going out, not out of the country, but like
Yeah, yeah,
to Puerto Rico with them.
yeah.
And so hopefully they're cool, they treat you well, etc. But it was very definitely a lot of synergy for sure right away.
Yeah, yeah,
And then how feeling that back too is like, so what do we do next? Do
yeah,
we, continue to stay in a relationship and stay, keep having conversations, or do we like we just met one time and then that's it, so that's all been still I'd say continue to navigate because I
yeah, yeah.
even and then sharing that stuff with my parents, sharing with them like, oh, I'm going with my biological brothers to Puerto Rico. My mom, I was very hesitant to tell my mom about that. And then she took, she was like breathing a little bit, like, okay, I knew it was going to happen at some point. Um, and so then telling my dad, my little sister, my adopted little sister is like, I'm still number one, right?
Always.
So just not be getting all that, but
Yeah,
it's been a blessing. It's been truly a blessed season, I'd say.
yeah,
To have so many new family members, including my child, at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah. And this was before your son came.
Yeah, that was right. Well, I met them. I flew out, I think, a couple weeks after he was born.
Oh, wow, what a gift.
Yeah, it was
What a
really cool.
gift. What a gift.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so you talk about how you guys met up and now you guys are still, trying to like keep in touch. It sounds like just a regular family to me because,
Yeah.
sometimes you have siblings where they're somewhere alive, I'll catch you when I catch you.
Yes, yes, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did they get to live with your mom or they were adopted as well?
No, so they stayed with my bio mom. And so I
Mm,
think there was it's kind of a situation. I don't want to go too deeply into it, but
that's okay.
yeah, this was the best situation for me as a third child at that time to be given up for adoption. And so um, but they grew up in Chicago and then ended up moving to Alabama after a while to be nearer to family and have some support. But so,
So many questions to ask you. I'm just gonna go
yeah,
ahead and ask it. So
awesome.
I know
Yeah,
there's like a grief with adoption.
sure.
Was there like this layered grief of, oh, so I actually had two brothers who got to stay with my mom. How come I wasn't, kept, at home? Did that
Yeah,
evoke
I
any
think
feelings for
I
you?
think that was always going to be something that that's probably why in the back of my mind I would like block out like there's probably no siblings,
Oh
because
yeah.
I'm the only
Yeah.
one.
Mhm.
That's a very egocentric look at things. But I think in the description of kind of them explaining to me how they grew up, and then me kind of holding back, especially in the first conversations, how I grew up, I was like, I see the dichotomy, and I'm very, very blessed with
Yeah.
how, getting to just be poured in, love by my parents every day. Where, sometimes they were having to run, from elementary school to home, having to hide from a lot of stuff that was being presented to them.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, and, I didn't have to deal with any of that kind of stuff. I was very sheltered in my upbringing. So I think, in a normal situation, or if I was younger and had heard that, maybe it would have been more difficult. But, um, you know, as a grown man, I'm like very grateful. And I think I was always going to be very grateful to my parents for choosing to adopt me. And when I choose to meet the bio mother, I'll definitely, say thank you so much for giving me up for adoption, giving me the opportunities that I have been able to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever that happens, I'm wishing the very best because I can imagine it would take a lot of emotional strength.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that was an initial conversation from the oldest brother where he was like, so my bio mother is graduating from very soon from a bachelor's program. So he was like, oh, it'd be really cool for you to surprise her at graduation. And I was like, I don't
We
think.
need a pre-meeting before that.
I was like, no, I think that's her day, and like let her live with that. I'm glad she knows, she's aware that we are all in contact now, and I think it's a difficult place for me to be in because I have a mother. I have a really good family, so
Yeah.
for me to add another component as of right now,
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that at this point in time. So
Take your time. Take your
mhm.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So let's center it back to your son.
yeah. Mhm.
Congrats on your baby.
Thank you, thank you.
And in what way would you say that experience has maybe opened or even reshaped or softened any parts of, your adoption journey?
Oh yeah, I mean, just to be able to see, like, I think at this point, and we were just with my family this past weekend. So, he's 5 months right now. So my parents would not even have gotten me until 6 months. So it's so crazy to see, like, oh my gosh, my mom made the comment, like, you're getting to experience a lot of the stuff that we didn't even get to experience with you for the first
Yeah.
few months, and there's so many changes, and I'm super excited to share with him kind of like what that looks like in the future. My wife and I do want to adopt as well, after we have some biological children, and then hopefully that kind of, we create that legacy in our family just to continue to adopt. But it's really cool to see like, I mean, as you know, it's just a lot of love for them.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah. Yeah.
helpless creatures of sorts. So you get to,
Yeah.
all of it
Yeah.
is out of love.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I think it's going to be my last question because I don't want to spend so much time on this, even though, I could keep talking
Yeah,
on
we
and
can talk.
on.
I mean,
Yeah, I know, I know, I know. And thank you so much, by the way, for
yeah,
just expressing, all of your thoughts. And I think there's so much tenderness in how you say it, like, how grief and gratitude can exist even in the same breath.
yeah.
I guess my final question on this particular thing will be, what's something you wish people understood more about adoptees, especially adoptees who are just trying, who are just now starting to reconnect with their past?
Oh man, that's a deeply ingrained question. I think I wish there was more adoption, just because people like, especially I say this all the time, if you're in a pro-life crowd, you should be pro-life in every component.
Right,
So
to the end, not just before the
yeah,
baby's born, all the
yes,
way to the
absolutely.
end.
All the way. So meaning like as I work with some foster youth in San Diego, and getting to see how great these kids are, like how passionate about life they are, getting to I get to guide them very, for a short time, but I wish that more people would embrace these kids and kind of see how great they can be, because I think that shock a lot of times when I tell people that I am adopted, they're like, I mean, I'm like, what do you expect an adopted person to be like, like,
I wasn't that I didn't know you adopted. Not that I think that
yeah,
anyone should look differently as an adoptee, but I
yeah,
just didn't know you adopted.
yes. So I feel like that I tell people all the time, I'm like, I mean, I was very fortunate. I was loved. I was in a loving home, and I got to be very sheltered. So I think you may misunderstand sometimes what that looks like, even because there's still a lot of love being poured in, even on
Yeah,
that are adopted. So
yeah, yeah. Okay, I said this was gonna be my last question, but you had this coming, Sam.
yeah,
You said something about more people should adopt, and I think it's beautiful. I agree with that. That said, if I'm really being honest, as a mom who came through motherhood through adoption, I sometimes carry this quiet fear that one day my child is gonna look back and feel a deep grief that I couldn't protect them from, right? I worry about being the safest place and the source of pain, however unintentional, even though we love them deeply. And I know sometimes love doesn't always erase those loss. So, as someone who's lived through being adopted and is now parenting yourself, what would you say to parents like me? Show you how we can hold space for both joy and grief without getting it wrong.
yeah, I would say that just do your absolute best, because I think my mom now is my very best friend. And so I think back to the constant pouring in, like I mentioned, of you were chosen, my mom being like, of all the people in the world that we could have adopted, we chose you. God gave us you, so I think, while the teenage years we squabbled 15, 16, I came back around to me just remembering those words over and over again, and that's stuff that I get to pour into my child as well. I'm not an adoptive parent to my child, but I'm like, that love is still legacy love. So I think
Yeah,
that's the thing that you're creating
yeah,
with your child as well, is just being like, I'm pouring out love on you. It doesn't matter, how we came about this love, but it's real love, it's true love, and I'm very grateful for you. And so that's kind of what she's going to take away um, from you.
Okay, that feels. We've been doing that. So on that end, I think we're good. But we'll keep doing more and more of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that. So let's talk business.
Yeah.
Now, you wear so many hats, right? Brand developer, real estate investor, and tonight you mentioned DJ, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Sam, really though? Where did this come from? And I mean, how did you come about all of this? Would you say?
Yeah, so I have to take you back again. So when I was in college, I was an athlete and I was in student government and in a fraternity. So I didn't have a lot of time to do like a traditional job, but I needed to make money. So I would do these trade shows. I would MC trade shows all over the place. And so when I left undergrad, and I was planning at that point, I was pre-med undergrad, so I was taking the MCAT, taking
Oh, I
my
didn't
gap
know
year.
that. Wow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and planning to be pursue the physician track. Um, I started a business in San Diego, just kind of staffing other MCs, other promotional models, like people branding for companies. And so I think that was the nerve-wracking kind of figuring out my first business side of things. But I think that's kind of built up into the DJ company. I merged that into the DJ MC company. We do a lot of weddings, corporate events, etc., trade shows, and so that's like my fun business. I will
Mm.
always keep that business. I don't plan to sell it. I have like 10 DJs that I
Yeah.
work with, and we're branched into production, full scale production as well. We travel, we're doing some weddings in Mexico and the Caribbean as well. So just kind of built that up quite a bit and want to continue to grow that. And then, yeah, then real estate side of stuff
Yeah.
is still building every day.
Wow. Wow. I
Yeah.
think your business journey is just as multifaceted as your personal one. So let's
Yes.
talk about how all those moving parts come together. And thanks for sharing
Yeah.
all about your background. What inspired you to launch the pivotal investment and real estate and relationship? Let me just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah. The pivotal investment is a long journey. I think that's going to be the ultimate. I tell people all the time. So,
Yeah.
the launch has been long because I'm building, investing on my own, using own capital. So that is, the focus of that is to invest with purpose. So taking, raising capital, working with a lot of investors to invest, in apartment complexes or invest in industrial complexes, et cetera. But the focus is to do it with purpose. So if we're going to buy an apartment complex, for
Mm.
instance, we're not just buying it, making it look good, raising the rent and like a normal, investment. Yes, I want my investors to make money, but I also try to explain, well, we also want to help, in societal dividends as well. So that means the people that are living in this apartment complex are handed a folder, like let's kind of explain to them how to build your credit, how to maybe purchase a home in the future, how to, financial acumen, stuff that I've learned, through my 20s and 30s, because like we talked about, some people don't have this stuff taught
Yeah.
and definitely not taught in the school system. So
Yeah.
just doing things a little different than just getting really nice returns for investors. We're
Yeah.
trying to do returns all around, essentially.
Hmm. Hmm. Thank you. I think it's fascinating what you do. You've built something truly multidimensional. How did you navigate the challenge of blending your passions, real estate, brand building, justice into one cohesive mission?
Yeah, I think I'd still always working on that. I think love the brand building side of things. I love just kind of making stuff really organized. Real estate is very old school. So a lot of times I get to, add some really cool graphics stuff or add, some AI or some tech,
Yeah.
etc. So I think especially when I do meet with investors or general contractors or coming up with really cool development plans, I'm always infusing new technology into stuff, and I will continue to do that as much as I can continue to learn throughout the years.
Yeah.
And then the real estate and relationship side of things is just an umbrella underneath the umbrella of the pivotal investment, not the teaching component. So kind of explaining to both investors, because a lot of people understand the residential side of things, but commercial real estate is a behemoth of
Yeah.
understanding. So I really want to explain that out to investors as much as possible. And then also the reason why I went to the master's program in the first place, or went into commercial real estate, was the goal of teaching Black and Brown individuals coming after me that are like how to invest in real estate because I didn't even
Nice.
know about this, a few years ago. Like I didn't know you could buy an apartment complex or buy hotels or, buy retail strip malls. I had no idea. I knew somebody could do that. I didn't know it could be you and I. So the ability to kind of, create this curriculum over time as I continue to learn, and absorb information. I write a lot of stuff down. And then I, continue to impart it into next generations of developers as well.
Nice. Thank you for that. So, many young people hesitate to start big things early, right?
Yeah.
What would you say gave you the confidence or who to begin when you did, and how did you push through the self-doubt, if you had any that is?
Yeah, I think I'm always pushing through. I think um, well, I look at it like this. So I remember I'm glad I actually went to undergrad at University of Denver where I went because I was able to experience kind of what life looks like from the other side, I'd say. So from public school in high school to private school, where I think tuition was like 50 grand a year. And I just assumed that everybody had a scholarship or everybody was, I was like, who's actually just paying $50,000 for school?
Mm,
So getting to experience and see, well, there are people out here that are actually very wealthy and are doing a lot of investments, kind of their kids are kind of understanding, what it is to invest in stocks and bonds and, real estate, etc., from a very young age. So some people take that and become jealous of that. And some
mm,
people, like myself, are like challenge accepted. I want to
yeah,
take the opportunity to maybe I'm going to have to work harder and faster than a lot of people because maybe they're going to receive inheritance.
right.
By the time we're in our 40s, 50s, etc., I don't have that, benefit. So I'm going to have to work really, really hard to be the person that, gives an inheritance to my children. So I think that's kind of where my brain goes to. And then I remember when I was really young, I would always tell people that I really desired to be very wealthy. And some people
Wow.
would, yeah, people would shut that down. And but I'm very confident in the reason why I want to be very wealthy, and that's because God has put it on my heart to become very wealthy, so I can give it away.
That,
So I
yeah,
can
yeah,
be the one to write a check for missions or write a check. If somebody needs something, take care of it with no issue. So
yeah, yeah.
I think as long as my heart has been in the right place, then God has really blessed my path essentially to get to where I'm going. So that's the motivation.
So brazen. Like, would they ask you what you want to be in the future? We're like, no, I just want to be wealthy.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, I thought I was gonna be a doctor. I'm happy that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but this is not
Hmm.
really crazy. But I think now I would just be like, no, I'm going to be very wealthy.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I would think when I was younger, I would not really explain to people that the behind the scenes type stuff. And still don't think I need to explain to people, but that is where my heart lies is I want to make a lot of money and make a lot of impact with that money. So
Uh,
uh, that means, I've got to use every talent that God's given me to make it.
yes, I love that philosophy. There was this financial piece course that myself and Taiwo took,
Mhm.
and the preceptor said he had this thing in his house like framed, and it was all born. Like whatever you have is gonna burn down eventually someday. How are you using what you have right now? And don't think of it like it's yours. You're a custodian of the wealth you've been given.
So,
You propose it. And then last time I had someone on the podcast, it was Harry. He's a pastor, and he talked about how the way he's lived his life is to imagine that God has given each and every one of us a talent or a resource or a gift that can fulfill the needs of our other brethren. We're supposed to dwell in community. And if we lived our life in such a way that what I have right now can be a blessing to somebody, we can see a lot of closing of those disparities of wants and needs we find in our community. And that was kind of profound to hear. I just thought to share that again because
no,
you
it's good.
mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So beautiful. All right. So looking back, would you say there were any major setback that you had that actually turned out to be a defining moment in your whole entrepreneurial journey?
Oh yeah, I think again, I look back at there was a time in San Diego when I had like 5 or 6 businesses. So I
Mm.
was running around like crazy, just
5 or 6.
yeah,
Same.
I was hustling. So I think that choosing to let two go, I think so I can build up the greater good. Essentially, that's not the point is not to just hustle for the rest of my life. The point is to build
Mm,
something
mm,
and make
mm.
it impactful.
Yeah,
So I would say that even from my first business, I had the I built my first website with $500, and then I was like, oh, I've got to pay my own rent. I've got to make sure that I have
yeah, yeah,
money to figure things out. So
yeah,
um,
mm,
yeah, just constantly, just I think entrepreneur life is always learning,
yeah,
kind of figuring out what works best, and um, going to it's a
yeah.
constant journey. It's not going to be, I don't think it ever becomes easy because it's a constant chase of, building up, which is
Mm, mm.
what I enjoy.
Um, I think in talking to you, one of the things I've been able to tease out, and also knowing you, for a while now, is you have this heart for helping people find direction, not just professionally, but in life.
Mhm.
Casting your mind back as just over your own life, as it were, what are some people would you say that have been very instrumental in guiding you on your own path, apart from your parents, that is?
Oh yeah. So I think there's in the master's program, for instance, there's a gentleman, Adam Robinson, that is a mentor to me, and he is just a really good all-around guy. I'd say like he's a
Mm,
good husband, he's a good father, he's a good businessman. He's like very honest and open, and I think that was something that I was looking for. I love mentorship, like I'm a big fan of it. So I think having the conversations, and I actually met him. It's a funny story. It's a pickleball connection, but I met him, or I was given his information by my career center at the master's program, and then I reached out to him, multiple times, and he did not respond. So I was like, "Oh, this guy's too
mm,
busy, or he's just not interested, or whatever." So he, at one point, just reached out and was like, "Hey, do you want to come tour one of my buildings with me?" And so he's like, "Be here at whatever time." So I show up. And I get there and I was kind of discouraged because there's like 15 other people that were going to be there at the same time. So
wow.
I was like, oh, he just threw me in a loop of people. So at the end of it, I go up to him and say, thanks so much, Adam. That was awesome. Appreciate you inviting me out. Hopefully I get to see you again. I'm just about to go play pickleball right now. And he's like, wait, what? Stop everything. He's like, oh, started talking to me about pickleball for probably the next 20 to 30 minutes. And so
Wow.
that invite then went to him inviting, me to his home in Encinitas, California. Very nice home, getting to be around his family, etc. Really dive in and understand the real estate side of things. But then, he understands my heart too. Kind of is motivated to help me get to where I want to be faster because of me
Yeah,
explaining I'm not just trying to be rich to be rich, I'm
yeah,
trying to, be able to invest in people as well.
yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
he's really good. And several others along the way, I'd say like some good. I mean, even from elementary school to high school to college, I had really good teachers, professors that really took a liking to me and kind of understood, hey, you have
Nice.
a bright future ahead. Let me do my best to set you up. And I still stay in touch with some people, some teachers from elementary school, which
That
I
is
really
great.
appreciate. So
That is great.
yeah,
So you've talked about just the mentors, right?
yeah.
What do you think is um so when we think about mentoring, it's bi-directional, right? You can also be a mentee while being mentored at the same time, right? Um, as a mentor yourself, now putting you in a position of a mentor, how do you know when someone is ready to be led and when they just need space to find themselves?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think you have to, I mean, I think I will always be in a position where mentorship is, I say, like, even when I'm like 60, 70, 80, I'm
Mm,
always gonna be looking for somebody that's like ahead of me to learn from. So,
mm,
and when I mentor others, I'm not a person that's going to say, like, do this. But I do create a space for people. Like, I'm going to say, this is what I did. this is my suggestion, but I'm going to allow you to kind of, you know, follow the path, or you can choose
Mm.
to chart your own. So I think there's kind of a balance there, because I think I always look at it the dichotomy between an attorney in practice or a counselor in practice. A counselor is focused on, asking you the questions. What do you think? What do you think you should do here? Versus an attorney will tell you. And so I like to be kind of in between. I'll tell you what I did in my position to get where I am, but I'm not going to ever force you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think everybody should have some sort of mentorship. If somebody who's gone ahead of you can kind of squash some of the issues you have coming along the path, then you should probably take that.
Yeah, I mean, so spot on. We talk about the importance of mentorship on the podcast, of
Mhm.
community, and all of that. And so thanks for sounding the importance of that.
Mhm.
We appreciate it. So you are married. Congrats on
Yeah.
that. And so let's talk about that. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about, how you met your wife and how long you guys have been married for.
Oh, yes. So we've been married for almost 3.5 years already. It's crazy.
Oh, it's
Time's
cute.
flown. We met in May of 2018. So I will have to throw back even before that. So I was on a show. It's called The Proposal. It was
Wait, not the puppy balloon one.
no, 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 no. I like that show. Not the one on Netflix, the one on
Okay.
so I was on the show it's put on by the same people, The Bachelor. It's not The Bachelor,
Wow.
but it's similar. So I filmed that. Then I did not win, which I'm happy about. I met Sarah 2 weeks later. I was flying from San Diego to Phoenix for my little cousin's graduation, and Sarah was flying from San Diego to Colorado and had a layover in Phoenix. And so I bought a last minute flight, and I think they put me on a middle seat on American Airlines, and I went up to the podium and asked for any other seat, and they ended up putting me right next to Sarah. And so I'm walking down the aisle and was like, oh, hi. And I'm very much typically like headphones and
Yeah. Zone
just,
out. Yeah.
yeah. But we talked like it's only a 45-minute flight from San Diego to Phoenix, but very platonic, just kind of like getting to know each other. I was like, she's beautiful, but I didn't know what the situation was. And so,
Mm.
at the end of that flight, I was like, oh, I don't know how to should I get her number? Like, how do I maneuver this? So I have a business phone and a personal phone, and both of them were dead by that time. So, so,
Samuel.
and so we're
Power
walking.
banks.
Yeah. So I was like walking and I was like, we're getting close to the end. I was like, oh, I forgot that you could just like write down her phone number. So she fortunately had Facebook at that time. She no longer does have any social media, but I put my name into her Facebook, and then she not add me at that time. I just put it there so she could choose to if she wanted to. And then she hit me up, like she did not add me right away, which I was like, I
Yeah.
remember being like, oh, I guess maybe I misread the situation. And so I got I think 3 days later, she ended up adding me, and I messaged her right away and was like, I said something dumb like, oh, did you land? And she was like, yes, I did. Thank you. So yeah, I took her for first to a wedding, like we were talking about this time, just kind of still very platonic, but I was like, she's a cool girl. Getting to know her a little more, and then after that, I invited her to San Diego before she started medical school,
Wow.
and was like, fly out here. Let me know. I was gonna buy her flight, and she was like, "Oh, I already bought it." So I was like, "Oh, a boss lady. She's good."
Look at
Uh,
that.
and then put her in the guest bedroom, very gentlemanly. And then I was like, we just had a week kind of just getting to know each other. We went to Six Flags, planned dinner on the beach with her. We went to got to meet. We went to church, got to meet some family friends, etc. And then I wasn't really intent on, um, you know, pursuing her as my girlfriend at that time. I was just like, well, I have to get to know her, and then I don't know
Yeah.
how it's going to be a thing because she's going to medical school in Idaho and I'm living in San Diego. So I think at the end of the week, I was like, well, I mean, I like you a lot. I don't know how this is going to work, but I asked her to be my girlfriend, and now we're married. So it's,
Wow. So many stories to unpack there for my single folks, you know.
yeah,
Collect that number, slide into their DM.
get on a
Even when
flight.
get on that flight, you know, and text back. Get
Yes,
yourself a
exactly.
power bank.
Yeah, get a power bank for sure.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh wow, congrats on that.
Thank you.
In what way would you say? Because you've spoken a lot about the power of relationships, right? And
Mhm.
the ones that stretch us, the ones that mirror us, you know, and anchor us, right? So, what role would you say your marriage has played in shaping who you are emotionally, spiritually, and professionally?
Oh yeah, I think always driving each other. I think that's really fun. Just kind of being, like right now we're in a position where she's gonna about to be attending a position, so I'm like, cool. I get to level up, alongside my wife, and we get to dream and plan on building, this empire that we've been talking about for so long. So um, I love it. I think I've always been a very motivated person, but to be with a person that's also very motivated is really fun because we're always just, challenging each other, but in a positive way, I'd say, versus, the negative that can come about.
Mm, mm, nice, nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And what would you say has surprised you most about marriage so far?
Learning. I think we're always learning. I mean, we're
Yeah,
both headed, so
yeah.
it can be like, I mean, you have especially because we're long distance, so we
Mm,
are very intentional on asking a lot of questions, trying to get to know each other as best as possible when you get to only see each other for, you
mm,
know, 3 to 5 to 7 days at a time. And so, just learning, continuing to learn. So like
mm,
I'm, very intentional about asking questions, but getting to learn like, oh, what does this person actually like and what does this person actually need? You learn those things. I think even
yeah.
3.5 years in, still learning. So,
Nice, nice. And given how professional and also what you do, and then with a baby in the mix, that's a whole lot. And then you guys travel
oh
a
my,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how are you doing? How are you and your wife supporting each other's ambitions while staying grounded in the day-to-day of real life?
Yeah, I think it'll be real in May. I'd say when she goes back to her 12-hour shifts.
Mm,
Right now we've been able to still gallivant and travel a little bit more, get
yeah.
to enjoy the baby, etc. But I think yeah, I think we will navigate that even more so in the future. Have as I've always wanted to have support, but I think we recognize the support of family is super crucial. More
Yes.
so, especially when you have kids, as I'm sure you're.
Going on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Say no
again, yeah,
more.
you see it. It's like
Uh,
where I've always been, not always, but like I've been away from my family for so long. I got to go to undergrad and then moved to San Diego and still, visited here and there, but haven't lived near them. So
mm,
um, I am excited to be nearby, I'd say, in the future, and then
yeah.
um, yeah, just kind of, I think we balance stuff out like as much as possible. Like it's not
Yeah.
not a very traditional relationship in the sense of like one person's cooking or one person's doing laundry. Like my wife will be like, "Oh, I want to do all the laundry," but
Yeah.
if it doesn't get done, then I'm going to do laundry. So it's more about kind of figuring out what works the best for each other, and then she's also always been very tired as a resident, and so
I
adding
imagine.
the baby into the mix when she's going to come home after working 12, 13 hours and then want to try to enjoy a little time with him and shower and then go back to sleep will be very interesting. So
Sending love and light and everything in between your
thank
way.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we're rounding off now, but I had some couple of questions before I
Yeah.
send you off and so you can go take care of your baby. You travel a lot and you've traveled and experienced a whole lot. And I also commend you on just taking the moment your boy came out of, your wife's whole house, you already put him on a flight. I'm like, whoa, this boy, he's in for a trip. All the places he's gonna go.
Yeah.
You've traveled and experienced a lot. Has any place or culture taught you something unexpected about, just maybe yourself, maybe your potential, your identity or belonging?
Oh man, I really enjoy the Caribbean like a ton. I don't know what
I
the
see that you go there a lot.
yeah,
I
as
love
a
it too, but I'm just curious to
yeah.
know, why is that
Yeah.
for you? Yeah.
Because I think it's like there you see a lot of people go to Hawaii, which I enjoy as well, but I like the Caribbean side of things because I'm like it's just one, it's a little bit more reasonably priced, I think, than Hawaii. And then two, just you're getting a little bit more flavor, I'd say, and the culture side. I like to go, like I said, to not just to the
Yeah, fancy resorts.
art,
Yeah,
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 but like to
yeah,
go in and my wife and I desire even more so in the future to be like before we go on these really fancy trips of sorts, if we can do like backpack drives and just kind of drop items to people in need there. I'd love to do that more so in
yeah,
the Caribbean than anywhere else. But I think that's kind of something that I really want to have my son and then future kids as well be able to see as well from us. It's not just because I think of things like, my wife and I are talking about on the first trips that our son has gotten to go on, we're in lounges. So I didn't even know what a lounge was until, my 30s. So kind of explain, always balancing like, yes, I want my kids to live better,
luxury, but then
yeah,
also to show
luxury
them the
life.
real side of life. Yeah,
Yes, I want to be able to not in the real side, and then also like that we as the whites, our focus is to help people in need at all
yeah,
times, like
yeah, yeah,
and not looking down. We're no better than anybody, but
yeah,
if we have the means and we have the ability and we have the structure to be able to organize people that also want to give to others, then to do so. So I
yeah,
think that's kind of what I've learned just traveling a little bit and seeing there's nothing to be afraid of. As I mean, obviously there's craziness all over the world, but I just really enjoy seeing cultures all over the place, and
yeah.
uh, can't wait to see even more.
I'm very for him. I mean, now that he's still little, please give him all the comfort, first class,
Yeah.
lounges and whatnot. When he's older, he can get the lessons, okay?
Yes.
Um, if you could go back in time and give a word of encouragement to your younger self, the Sam just starting out, what would you say to him now?
I would say jump in, man. Just jump in
Right.
because I think there's a lot of times where you mentioned before, like that self-doubt or that
Yeah.
not knowing what you're doing is correct. Just go for it. I think that's the best thing to do. And I've learned to not be afraid to fall along the way and just fall,
Yeah.
get back up and keep moving because there's a lot of people that are ahead of us that did exactly that. They just figured out, well, got to keep moving. So.
And the converse of that is, if you were to listen to this in the future, like 5, 10 years from now, what would you want to say to the future Sam?
Proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
Um,
You
mm,
you you did exactly what I just said. I'm
yeah,
sure you've fallen a few more times between
yeah.
now and then, but 5 years from now, you're doing what you need to be doing. What God's called you to
Um,
do.
Great, great. And lastly will be, what's one belief about purpose that you hope listeners walk away after hearing your story? And it doesn't have to be limited to purpose, by the way. Just one thing you like to leave with the listeners today about your story as a whole.
Yeah, I think just kind of like we talked about, there's just so many um, but I think get to know people, get to know a relationship or like build relationships with people because there's just so many unique stories out there. Just, I have mine. We got this captured in such a short time. I'm so interested to learn more, Mo, as when I get my podcast, I definitely will bring you on. But I think I just love people. I think that's, everybody has such a unique story. And
Yeah.
if you don't get to know that story, then you're not fulfilling what life is all about. I think it's all about people and getting to know
Yeah.
others, helping people. So
Thank you so much. And I
yeah,
forgot to say shout out to T Dog. I was T Dog. They know him as T Dog on the podcast. I
yeah,
got to know Sam through Taiwo. and they play pickleball together.
Every day.
And our daughter really like Ari has a special love for you. Like when she sees you, the way she just runs across the field. And thanks for just, being so tender and very patient. All of her questions, and you get her. I can tell that you get her kind of vibe. Yeah. So thank you. It's been so nice just hearing a lot about you. I mean, I see you on the court, I see you smile, I see you wave, but just being able to have like an exclusive access to peel a little bit of you and learn more about what makes you tick and what has grounded you. And shout out to your parents, by the way, and your sister, the number one, girl in your life, right? Wink, wink. Sorry, Sarah. And just all of and even to God, how mindful He is to have our stories kind of weave into one another, and nothing is coincidental. I believe that strongly as a Christian. But I think even much more so is just your story to me is a reminder of that what is like to be layered, right? That legacy isn't something we build in the spotlight, but it's in the daily decisions we make, the quiet returns, the unseen growth. And so I just want to say thank you for giving of yourself and sharing even something as raw as your adoption process, that I imagine that it's still a lot of processing and emotional bandwidth that is needed, with the who knows when the reunion is going to happen when you're bio mom. But being able to, speak about that and stand there as you did, I want to just say thank you so much. This has been such an honor having you on the podcast, Sam.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in today. If this conversation resonated with you, share it, tag someone who needs to hear it, and maybe ask yourself, what part of your story are you still afraid to tell? What might happen if you gave it some light, right? So until next time, stay rooted, stay real, and keep walking your own pivotal path. And Sam, we'll bring you back on the podcast hopefully someday. But thank you. Yeah.